Do you ever feel like the rules at work are confusing, unfair, and seemingly designed to hold you back? Like, no matter how hard you work, someone else seems to move up first. Well, what if I told you there aren't really any rules? It's just that you're playing the wrong game. And once you understand how it actually works, you can start consistently advancing your career. When I went from answering phones to director, I started seeing how leadership really makes decisions, what gets rewarded, what gets ignored, and discovered why working harder is actually the worst way to get promoted. And since then, I've helped colleagues like you navigate these unwritten rules so that they can build the career that they love. So in this video, I'm going to share the leadership secrets no one ever tells you, starting with why leadership never seemed to promote the hardest working people. Hey colleagues, and welcome back to another Team Huddle, where we unpack the mysteries of work, expose what really goes on behind closed doors, and give you the tools to build the career you actually want. So start taking meeting minutes and let's get into it. So what's the first secret you need to know if you want to get promoted faster and actually be seen by leadership? Well, you know how some paintings in art museums are worth like millions of dollars? Like this Van Gogh. It's literally priceless. But if we're honest, the actual painting, then it's fine. Like I couldn't do it, but my cousin can, and she sells her paintings for $15 on Etsy. I mean, the thing is, people obviously aren't just paying for the technical skill, they're paying for the value behind it, right? And once I realized that the same thing happens at work, then everything started to change for me. I started getting promoted consistently and faster, I got paid more, and I was starting to get pulled into bigger conversations with more important people. So if you actually want to get noticed and rewarded by leadership, then you need to understand the difference between intrinsic and inherent value. So intrinsic value is the work that you do. It's like the tasks and the projects. It's necessary, sure, but it's not what's ever going to get you promoted. Intrinsic value is like the brushstrokes on a painting, the stuff that my cousin can do just as well as Van Gogh. But inherent value, well, that's something different. It's what your work represents and the impact that it has on the business. And that's what Van Gogh had, and that's what makes him so valuable. And it's what your boss is looking for. Now, here's the secret that leadership will never actually say, is they don't actually care about or promote intrinsic value. They only promote inherent value, which means no amount of extra projects or late nights or perfect reports will ever get you promoted if all you're doing is adding intrinsic value. To move up, you need to show the impact your work has on the business, not just what you do, but what that work means. And if you want to learn how to show that inherent value and finally get seen by leadership, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of these team huddles. But that brings us to the second secret. And when you realize this secret, then it's the key to getting ahead. So do you ever feel like you're finally ready for that next step, only to be told something like, you haven't completed enough time in that role? Or, well, we'll give you a pay rise, but it's only 10% because that's what the policy says. And it feels unfair, right? Especially when you know other people are earning more than you in that level. Or the market value for that role is a lot higher, so you could just get paid more somewhere else. But here's a leadership secret no one's ever going to tell you. Those rules are not designed around fairness. They're intentionally designed to create friction to get you to leave. Which seems ridiculous, right? Because why would a company want to demoralize an employee, which has a reputational effect to the business, and demoralizes the rest of the team, only to then spend a bunch of money in lost productivity hiring someone to then pay them more than you were asking for because the market value of that position is more? So why would they want to do that? Well, the cynical answer is because it actually is cheaper overall. You see, some people will leave because they're not going to tolerate such a small pay rise, yes, but most will stay settling for less money because it's more inconvenient to transition job than it is to take the lower pay rise, so the business wins overall. Now, the more generous take on these rules are they're very carefully calibrated to cause just enough churn, because churn is actually really healthy for a business. It brings in new people and new perspectives and a fresh energy, which is something the business actually wants. But here's the thing. What if you didn't actually have to follow these rules at all? What if you could get promoted despite all these blockers and get paid beyond the salary bracket too? Because this is the real secret. Those rules only exist to manage the average employee, and they're just words written on a PDF document that as soon as someone senior enough can sign off, then suddenly they disappear. And I saw this clearly the further I got up in my career. The rules are not hard boundaries, they're just signals, really. Signals that it's time to get someone with real influence to back you. Now, look, I still follow the process. I'm not saying you should just go rogue, but once I stopped treating these policies like absolute brick walls and started navigating them like detours, then that's when I started getting ahead. That's how I broke salary caps and how I got to where I am. And getting that kind of backing, the kind that lets you bend the rules and skip to the front of the line, well, that's what this next secret is all about. So, do you ever feel like you're doing everything right, but still getting overlooked? When I was mid career, I hit every target. I used to take on all this extra work and do all these side projects, and nothing really moved in my career. There was no promotion, no pay rises, not even that 10%, and no real recognition. Meanwhile, other people with less output was somehow getting ahead. And it got to this point where I started questioning if something was wrong with me. Like maybe I just didn't have that thing that leaders were looking for. But one day something clicked. I was sitting in this meeting about restructuring the department, and I watched someone get promoted based entirely off of one line, which was, yeah, they're great. I mean, that was it. There was no detailed case, there was no file review or performance review. It was just a few words said by someone senior leadership trusted. And that's when I realized something that changed everything. It's not being about the best performer, it's about being someone a powerful leader is willing to back. And that's known as sponsorship. So, sponsorship is when someone senior says your name in a room that you're not in, and they use their political capital to open a door for you. And that's a cheat code to career success because it allows you to skip the queue, it will bend the rules, and it will make the impossible boundaries suddenly very much possible. And so once I realized this, I stopped waiting for recognition and started earning trust with people who had that kind of pull. And that's when my career really started moving forward. So if you're feeling stuck despite doing everything right, maybe the missing piece isn't effort, it's power in getting someone to use theirs for you. But that doesn't mean you have to become a kiss ass because no one wants to do that. No one likes the people that do. But what it does mean is learning how to navigate those unwritten rules, to stop waiting for recognition and start steering the right conversations. So it means instead of just asking for a promotion outright, you ask for something softer. You ask something like, what would it take for me to be seen as ready for the next step? And that's how you build career capital. So that when the time comes, when that next department restructure happens, someone powerful says that you're great in that room and you're the one that gets promoted. The secret is you don't force yourself into a promotion, you set up all the pieces in advance. But asking your boss for feedback is just one of the many small ways you can build the type of capital that gets you promoted. To learn some of the other ways, then watch this video next.